And one of the great debates in Islam is the debate about whether the Qur'an is created or not. And so we should say something about that without taking too long, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But this was an innovative belief, and the people who innovated this speech about the Qur'an were the Mu'tazila. And you'll see that the Mu'tazila are, what do you call it? The straw horse or the beating boy, or what do you say? But they always come up on the wrong side of the equation, and our scholars are always knocking them down. Okay, but the fact is that the Mu'tazila, they are an early movement in Islam who were very much concerned about da'wah. They were very much concerned about spreading Islam among Christians and Jews and Magians, and also in the process of doing that, they had to talk about a lot of abstract things that Jews, Christians, Buddhists, Magians, and others talked about, and they did that in their own way, but they made big mistakes. And one of the things you'll see when we look at the Mu'tazila is that although they loved reason and they believed that they followed reason, they made a confusion between reason and between customary experience. And someone asked the question about that yesterday after class, but it's really important that customary experience belongs to the realm of the possible. It does not belong to the realm of the necessary. Okay, so we do not confuse what is rational with what is customary. That's a huge mistake. So for example, if we believe that God turned Moses' staff into a big serpent that moved like a small serpent, is that customary? No. Did you ever see that happen? Probably not. Okay, but is it irrational? Absolutely not. That is another possibility in the infinite realm of possibilities, where God is free to do whatever He wants. Okay, and He can follow His sunnah, His natural course, or He can not do that as He wills. Okay, so this is where the Mu'tazila make a lot of mistakes. Also, the Arabic language, as we said, is an ancient tongue. Really old, going back thousands of years. We could say easily on the basis of comparative linguistics that it is the oldest known language of its family, with the possible competition of Thamudic, the language of Thamud, which is written in Thamudic script all over the Arabian Peninsula. And that's also really ancient Semitic, and it's different from Arabic. It's southern, it's like Himyaritic. Okay, but Arabic is at least 10,000 years old, and probably much more than that, probably much more than that. Okay, so in any case, Arabic, like all the Semitic languages and Hamitic languages, and probably this is true of human languages, is always rooted in concrete reality. It's always tangible. Okay? And so for example, if I say ma'rifah, which means knowledge based on experience, the word and the whole concept comes out of the coxcomb, which is that little red comb that the rooster has on his head. You've seen it, right? Is there anything like it? Have you ever seen anything like a coxcomb? Could you explain it to me if I had never seen it? No. So that is, the root that Arafah comes from, the coxcomb. And therefore, to know, ma'rifah refers to knowing things that you could never figure out on your own without experience. But it's very concrete, and everything in Arabic is like that. So when the Mu'tazilas begin to work in the realm of abstraction, they're actually not very good at that. So when they talk about speech, divine speech, well, you know what speech is. It's what I'm doing right now. I'm speaking, right? Language, sounds, grammar, first this, second that. Well, that's all temporal. That's all hadith. It all has beginning. So therefore, and this Qur'an, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, it's all ordered. First this, second that. It's got sounds. It is temporal. So they said, well, the Qur'an is also temporal. It's also created. Don't you get it? And this is where a lot of our scholars said, no, like you've gone too far. Okay, so then the Mu'tazila get very angry. They said, well, maybe you're mushrikun. So you think that this Qur'an in Arabic with its letters is uncreated and that it's like God, then that's almost shirk. In fact, they say it is shirk. Maybe you should be put to death. And they will beat Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And he said, no, I'll never say that. I'll never say that. Okay, so what's this all about? Well, again, this is a great theological debate. And it's because there is an inherited knowledge. There is an inherited understanding, which maybe has never been articulated in words. But then once you articulate it in words, you've got to get it right. And this is where our scholars, men and women, defend the inheritance. Okay? So they say that no, the matter's not that simple. Because the Qur'an is divine speech. And divine speech is a divine attribute. And that speech is the same as his knowledge. And it is not sound. It is not language. It is not words. It is not grammar. It refers to everything necessary, possible, and impossible in pre-existence, in eternity, self-sufficiently, not needing language or grammar, and in a dissimilar way. And it is one. Okay, so again, you can go back to the point theory of the universe. That God's speech, which is his attribute, is not sound. It is not letters. It is not Arabic. It is not Hebrew. It is not Syriac. It's not any other language. But it is a demonstration of his knowledge that comes out of total gatheredness. And in that gatheredness implies all the details of divine knowledge in separation. Do you follow that? That's really important. And in fact, the word Qur'an, what does it mean? It's probably not fair to ask that question, but the basic meaning of qara'a is not to read. It is what? Jama'ah, right, to gather. Because the Qur'an gathers together in its special letters and its words all divine knowledge, infinite knowledge. And the purer that your heart becomes, the better your actions become, the greater your knowledge becomes. You will see that. One of my beloved colleagues asked me, he said, this summer you'll have time to read the Qur'an in Ramadan. He said, I want you to look at the secret of gathering and separation as reflected in the verse in Al-Baqarah about Sayyidina Ibrahim when he says, show me, O my Lord, how you resurrect the dead. And he says, take the birds and train them and put them on the hills and call them to them. Okay? And then I began to read the Qur'an with that in mind, and it's like everything you read has got something to say about that. It's amazing. Amazing. Okay, so therefore when we talk about divine speech, we talk about divine speech which is a divine attribute. And that is uncreated and eternal and absolutely one. And it reflects everything in God's knowledge. And then we talk about God's created speech. And that is the speech in the divine tablet. in the tablet of light. And it is also the Arabic Qur'an as revealed to the Prophet ﷺ and written on paper and memorized in hearts. And it is also the original law or Torah that was given to Moses, most of which was lost. And the Psalms of David, which were revealed to him, and were over 4,000 Psalms, and only 150 remain today. And there's question about whether even they're authentic. Okay, so those original books, the Gospel of Jesus, which we don't have, because we don't even know what language it was written in. Those were also perfect speech of God that was created. Okay, so where is the issue here? The issue here is that the created word of God, okay, such as the words of the Qur'an, perfectly reflects and is perfectly connected to the gathered speech of God, which is uncreated. So therefore, don't talk about what you don't know anything about. And don't come and say that the Qur'an is created, because really the issue is much more complex than that. Because this Qur'an that is created perfectly reflects the speech of God that is uncreated. And you cannot divorce the two. Okay, so this is a big theological issue, a huge theological issue. And it really shows the fact that people like the Mu'tazilas, and we don't curse them at all, and we don't say they're disbelievers, but they were activists who were trying to do what needs to be done, and they were working it out on their own. But they made mistakes in doing that. And when they made the mistakes, the tradition corrected the mistakes. And when it corrected it, it opened to us doors that really open up to the knowledge of God and the knowledge of reality in ways that you can never fathom and never imagine. Okay? So it's like the unfolding of the flower when it blooms. The flower was there, the rose was in the bud, and now the rose opens up into this beautiful rose. Okay, so speech, very important. Very important. And the Qur'an reflects all that divine speech. You could say, for example, just like a beautiful pond in the night reflects all the stars in the heavens. Could you put all the stars in that pond? No. But it reflects those stars that are in the heavens, right? Okay, so then we go to will and power. Will and power. What is the nature of will? And by the way, someone asked yesterday, what are the Arabic words? So the Arabic word for life is what? Hayatun. Hayatun. Al-hayatu. And the Arabic word for knowledge is al-ilmu. Ilmun. And the knowledge and the word for speech is kalamun, kalam. Okay, and then we come to will, which in Arabic is iradatun, iradatun. Okay, and what does will do? Okay, any of you remember? We talked about it really briefly. What does will do? Yes. Nope, that's speech. Speech is the pointer. Will is the determinator. Can we say that? Can't say determinator in English, right? Determiner. You say terminator, right? And then you go to Hollywood. But it is the determiner. So will is connected to the realm of the possible. And the realm of the possible is the realm of creation. And in the realm of the possible, as you know, everything is known to God. So there is you, yourself, me, myself, and I. Right? And you are as you are. And you could have been different. You could have been bigger. You could have been broader. You could have been smaller. You could have pursued a different course of education. All of that was known to Allah. All right? And out of the infinite possibilities that pertain to you or to anything, He decreed and determined that you would be you with exactly the attributes that you have now. Okay? So this is really important. Here are my glasses. Okay? They have a number of attributes. We can only know the glasses through its outward, secondary attributes. How many are there? Well, we could number them for years. We could always add something new. There are lots of them. But they're not infinite. They are delimited, right? These are not infinite. These have a beginning and they have an end. Okay, we might go in more and more detail, but we are describing the same glasses. The other attributes that are possible regarding these glasses, but which God did not will to be, such as that it be wide and not narrow, or such that the lens be of a different power, these were excluded from existence by His will. Of course, a human being made this, but He willed that the human being make it. All of this was determined. Okay, so will always selects what will be out of a set of infinite possibilities multiplied by infinite possibilities. Infinity times infinity times infinity. It is the function of absolute knowledge and then of wisdom. See, so God determines that the tree will be this way and not another way, that it will be planted in that place and not another. All of these things are determined, and for that reason we say لَيْسَ فِي الْإِمْكَانِ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا كَانَ. This is the best of all possible worlds. That's the way that Voltaire rendered it in Candide. This is the best of all possible worlds. And then there were philosophers like Leibniz, if I'm not mistaken, who also held that. They probably got it from us because we were talking like this for over 1,000 years before they started talking that way. But we say, لَيْسَ فِي الْإِمْكَانِ. There is not in the realm of possibility better than what was, than what has been. Meaning that even though the world is filled with horrors and tribulations and terrors and oppression and abuse and the fall of civilizations and the rise of civilizations, God willed this to be based on His infinite knowledge of all possibilities. Okay, so it's very important for us to be patient. It is very important for us to accept that.